Welcome to the Outlier Mindset Podcast, your guide for living a life by design. Here, we explore the journey of becoming an outlier, finding your purpose, mastering your mindset, optimizing your health, achieving financial freedom, and building a life centered around your passions. So tune in, transform, and thrive. Welcome to the Outlier Mindset. Let the journey begin. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Outlier Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Rodman Schley, and we are continuing our journey of empowerment with yet another mindset pioneer in Rick Torrinson. Rick has a very unique framework that he uses to coach and help people crush their limiting beliefs. He also has a book coming out called Born Limitless that we're going to be talking about, and so much more. Rick, welcome to the show.
And it's good to be here, Rodman. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Every day is a blessing. You
Absolutely.
know, it's one of those things where I get up every single day and I keep learning, keep growing. Just life's full of blessings.
I'm excited to be here, but can I say something up real quick? Because I want to learn from you before you start asking me a bunch of questions. Can I ask you a quick question? I like to ask the people.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, that'd be awesome. So listen, I love what you're doing. I love the holistic approach of helping people discover, live in their purpose, this whole thing that you're doing. But I got a question for you. So I've been working on a book and studying, just working on stuff on this idea of limiting beliefs. So for me, help me out here for a second. If you could share with me, what is to get to where you are? You've done amazing stuff. To get to where you are, what's the limiting belief you had to overcome? Like, what's something you had to, man, I had to conquer this belief that would, if I didn't deal with this, it was going to keep me from to getting to where I am today. I'm just curious.
I mean, how much time you got? I mean, come on.
I just want one, right? I just want one limiting belief, just one.
Yeah, I would have to say, overcoming what other people think I should be doing.
Okay.
About what they thought I should have been or what I should be doing on a daily basis or the career that I should be doing versus all the things that I want to be doing. And unfortunately, that's a lot of people's lives, right?
Yeah,
a lot of people go
good.
through that every single day where they're so wrapped up in what society believes they should be that they forget about what they want to be.
Yeah, I've asked several people that with podcasts I've done, and a lot of other people's opinions, their thoughts of me, their expectations of me, right? That put a ceiling on me or limited me or thought I had to fit in that box. So I was just curious. We've all had to get through stuff to get to where we are. And I love a little bit of, what's that one thing that, man, this is the one that probably would have taken me down if I wouldn't have gotten over it. So thank you for that.
What about you? What was your most limiting belief?
Man, my love, and I write about this in this book a lot. It's my story. The limiting belief that I really have wrestled with is that I'm not good enough, right? And it came from a lot of stuff, but it came from a story. I grew up single mom, single grandma, growing up on my own, had to make decisions a lot, babysitters a lot. I was abused by a babysitter at a very young age. It shaped how I viewed women, life, relationships, and I didn't realize it. And so I started having this belief that, man, I'm always going to be this way, act this way. And so I treated women a certain way. And so I didn't, until I met my wife, I've been married 33 years, but until I really met her and said, man, I want to spend the rest of my life with this person, that never showed up. I was like, it was no big deal. I just did my own thing. And then I said, I got to be selfless and I want to marry this person. And all of a sudden this belief just came to the front of my vision. I was like, holy crap, if I don't deal with this, that I'm not enough and that I'm just a screw up, right? That things are my fault and I can never accomplish anything. We're going to struggle. And so anyways, I tell a lot of story around that of how I recognize that and how it influenced and impacted my life. And I'm glad I was able to have some good people around me to help me work through that.
What was the real turning point?
Yeah. So I think the real turning point was when I got to a place in my marriage. We've been married 33 years. I knew it existed. I dealt with it intellectually and knew that it wasn't true. But the reality was the intellect and the heart, the actual revelation that it's not true to where something can change. There was a gap there. And I had someone in my life that was, I'd say, a coach that really challenged me in healthy manners to ask me, why do you believe that? Where did that come from? Why do you think that way? And how is that serving you? And so they asked me questions that I'd never been asked before. And they asked it with my wife sitting right there. So we were both sitting here with this, it was discipleship at that time. And this guy was an amazing man. He's since gone on to be with the Lord, but 25 years in my life and my wife's life. And so his job was, he said, my job is to perfect your character. That's what he said. And I was like, okay, I've got a good character. I think I'm all right. And he said, I'm going to begin with you because that's what your wife needs, is for you to be the man that you were called and created to be. And I said, okay. I was all over it. And then he started asking me some really hard questions. And I remember driving back from Dallas, I'm in Houston. And I remember driving back from Dallas, and my wife was smiling, sitting next to me like she had just had the best day of her life. And I'm miserable. So I felt like, man, everything's my fault. He's asking me all these questions. I got to repent. I got to do all this stuff. And then it hit me. It was like, if I want to get to be the man that I know that I should be, I'm going to have to deal with the man that I think I am, right? And that I have believed that I am. And it really caused me to do some introspection. It caused me to really ask and answer some hard questions. And that was really the pivot, me asking those questions, saying, how is this serving me? How's this serving my wife, my relationships, my career, and the things that I'm doing? And I couldn't give myself a good answer. I couldn't answer that. It wasn't serving me. I didn't know how to solve it at the time, but I knew it wasn't, and it was no longer okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Mm-hmm. No, it totally does. It's interesting to me too, because, everybody, I get asked that a lot of times too, is like, how did you overcome this? Or how did you overcome that? Or how'd you get from here to there? But we've all got limiting beliefs. Yes. I mean, and it doesn't matter where you're at in life, how successful you are, where you're at in your journey, how you come along in your life. We've all got these things in our the way that we talk in our psyche that are holding us back, that limit us. And I know we've got to work on it, not just once, because you're not going to work on it once and be done with it. You've got to be working on it every single day.
It's not an intellectual thing, right? You can't intellectualize it or will yourself past it. Here's one of the things I found out is, and it's some stuff I write about, and in my coaching, I work with this a lot, is we have been living under limiting beliefs. All of us, like you said, we all have them. We just don't recognize them, a lot of them, or we ignore them, right? We just focus in one area, but we're holistic beings, so it's hard to do that. They interact with each other, right? But I've really found this idea that these limiting beliefs, we've held them so long that we started to call them normal. Mm-hmm. And I challenged you. I said, what if that normal that you're operating under isn't normal? What if there's a different normal? You just don't realize it and you can't see it because you've been living with this belief, this mindset about yourself, your capacity, your ability, your whatever it is for so long. It's just what do we say? Well, this is how life always been. This is what I've always got. Yeah. This is how it always works out. Yep. This is just the way it is. And I challenge them to say, well, what if it's not? And it may be, right? It may be the way it is. That may be true, but what if it's not? Are you willing to consider that the beliefs you have and that you're holding may actually be ceilings on your life and keeping you from the greatness that's inside you?
Yeah. And and so many people live that life and they continue to not get over those obstacles or those challenges because they believe that's who I am.
Right. They don't believe there's anything else. That's just, hey, deal with me, understand me, figure me out. This is just how I've always been. I'm sorry, but I don't know what to do about it. And I get it because I've been there. We've all been there, right? We're just so frustrated. And so it's easier to accept something less than to actually press through to believe there could be something more.
Yeah.
Right.
So what do you do? So what if you're sitting there and hopefully this is resonating with some people sitting there going, man, I do have this thing that's been holding me back. I do have these things that I wish I could change. Where do you start?
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you start with this. You start with a conversation of being willing to ask yourself that question. Why do I do the things that I do? So let me share, if I can, quickly a framework that I use in my coaching and the principles. Here's the thing. If you're a business owner listening, an entrepreneur, whatever industry, it doesn't matter what you do, the principles. I look for principles, and principles are truths that are applied to every situation, are true regardless of whether we believe them or not. I think there's not a lot of them, but I do think there's principles out there. So I want to share a couple thoughts with you that maybe are kind of principles that would be true in any area of our lives, and it's this framework. And here's what I believe. I believe that all of the outcomes that we get in our lives, the fruit of our lives, whatever it is, right? Those all come, we know this, from the behaviors or actions, the things we do. We behave a certain way, we act a certain way, we do certain things, and they produce certain results. those behaviors, those actions, every behavior we make, whether we realize it or not, comes from a belief. There's a belief that we have that drives the behavior that we're doing. And again, we've done it so long, we don't think about it. It's subconscious. Most of this is unconscious in us that we do. That belief drives the behavior that gets us an outcome, right? Now, our beliefs are things that come from how we interpret emotions and experiences in our lives, good or bad. There's moments in our lives, experiences, trauma, joys, it doesn't matter. We interpret it, we define it a certain way. The way we define it elicits an emotion, a feeling. That emotion and feeling now needs definition. So it comes up with, we come up with a belief about that. Well, this must mean this. That belief demands an action. We must live out of that belief. So we behave a certain way. That behavior gets us an outcome. Now, here's the thing. We look at our outcomes and we go, man, I don't like what I'm getting. I don't like this fruit. I keep going around the mountain. I keep getting this thing. I keep running into this. So what do we typically do? We typically try to change our behaviors, right? That's where hey, new system, new process, new action. Just stop doing it. Just start doing this, right? And the reality is if we've got strong will, we can do that for a short period of time. But we can't sustain that change because we haven't addressed the true source, which is the belief that drives the behavior.
So is that an acknowledgement thing?
So when people say, when people say, well, what do I do? I've got this limiting belief. We have to first understand what the limiting belief is, trace it to its source. Where'd that come from? Why do I believe this? What is the thing in my life that caused me to form this belief? And then ask a question. Is that belief that I've developed, is it true or is it a lie? Because it's based on an interpretation of an experience and an emotion and a feeling. The emotion and feeling, the experience is true. It's real. It impacted us. We responded to it. But then we define it. We start to interpret it. So my story of being abused at 5 years old, right? So I was abused. It's a real thing, real emotion, real feelings, a whole world that went with that abuse by the babysitter. Over time, I began to interpret that experience as my fault, as I'm less than, as I did something, as I'm not good. This whole narrative starts playing out because I have to interpret this feeling and this emotion, and I had no one to help me. So now I'm determining that I had something to do with this action. That's a belief. And I start living out and verifying by my actions, my behaviors, that belief, which caused me a lot of broken relationships, a lot of trauma, a lot of stuff trickled from that. When I went back and said, was the way I interpreted it true or not? The reality, it wasn't true. I interpreted it and it was a lie. How I had nothing to do with it. It was not my fault. I didn't cause it. It wasn't something I deserved. So now I can replace that and say, wait a minute. No, the truth is I was a good young man. The truth is I have a future and a hope. The truth is I was created with purpose. The truth is I'm valuable and have vision and I'm strong and I'm whatever it is. The truth is this. Now that I've identified the truth, my behaviors can start, okay, if this is the truth, then what does that look like showing up in my life? How would my life look different if this truth is real? And so then it begins to change and to shift. Does that make sense? It's a lot of words there, but does that make sense? So that's how I help people identify that.
I mean, and it comes down to not only identifying the root cause of that issue, and I like the idea of going, is this true or false? And there might be a lot of people, though, who look at it and go, oh, well, maybe it was still true, and they can't break out of that. Really, at the end of the day, it had nothing, like what happened to you, it had nothing to do with you.
No.
It had nothing to do with who you were, who you are, who you were going to be. You know, you just fell subject and then had that picture in your mind of what you believed to be the truth over time until you figured it out, right? It was you personally who did the work to go, this wasn't me.
I never need to ask those questions. I never thought about it because I stopped at behavior change. Will myself to be a better human, to be a better husband, to be a better father, make better decisions, go to counseling, get therapy around my actions and behaviors. But I never really understood the beliefs that were behind it. I just was trying to change the actions. Here's the other thing, Rodman, is that's a traumatic situation. But there are things that we trace back and we go, no, I was responsible. I made a choice in this situation to lie to my business associate to get this money to do this thing or whatever. And so there may be things we get to and go, no, what I did in the action was true, but then I defined myself for the rest of my life as a liar and a cheat. Now I have to own in that moment, maybe I was. Don't know the circumstances. I might have done stuff, but I did. That was true. I did that. It's on me. But does that have to define me for the rest of my life? In other words, our past doesn't have to be the lenses by which we view our future and define our future. But we allow it to because we don't realize we can actually change or become something else. We just bury it, but we don't deal with it. So it always shows up somewhere in our lives and hurts us and hinders us from actually getting to the things we desire to get to.
Well, 100%.
I don't want to go too deep with all that, but that's the process.
No. I mean, we like going deep on this podcast,
Okay.
so that's great. That's great information. It seems too like it's about this personal empowerment. I mean, when you let these false narratives control who you are, the false narrative has the power.
Correct.
It has the control. It's dictating to you versus you taking the control, taking the empowerment, saying, no, this is me. And, I really like when you're talking about too, some of these things are in our control. And sometimes we make bad mistakes.
Yep.
Sometimes we mess up. We just do. We don't live these perfect lives. But how can we be better? How can we move on?
Yeah.
And how can we take it and make that bad one mistake help us be a lot better in life all across the board?
And so what do you think? I mean, how does someone, so in that situation, how do we overcome that and change? What was that show? I loved it. The guy, Knight's Tale, right? He says, change your stars, right? The dad sends the kid off to go and be a squire and all that kind of stuff. And he says, you have a chance to go change your stars, change your future, right? It doesn't have to be what everything has been said it's supposed to be. You can make it something else. But the work to get there, the choices to make, the minds, the beliefs to have to be able to make that shift to actually change from where we are and what we are to something else or something greater. It's work.
Yeah. And it all starts upstairs. It all starts with us, right? I mean, I think that's the one thing that a lot of people don't understand is how much power they have over every single thing in their life.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to be able to control what's outside of us a lot of times. We're not going to be able to control what we see on the news. We're not going to be able to control what's happening to us in our environments. But how we respond to it, we have that power all day long. How we play every single day.
Right. I mean, that's a big challenge, right? Is we have the power. I can choose, but I don't. Why don't I? What do you think what have you found? Because you've been doing this a long time. You've been working with a lot of people, talking, seeing a lot of stuff. What do you think it is that keeps people from, because we all have the same ability to choose.
Yeah.
Why does some choose and some don't?
Some people find it easier to be the victim. Right? Some people like to get up and get that attention they get when I'm a victim. Or it's kind of that martyr type person who gets up and they sit there and go, you know what? It's like, this is just easier. I like how I feel when people feel sorry for me. Or I like, how people react to my misery.
The attention that I might get or the energy that comes to me from that whatever that is, even if it's negative or bad.
There are plenty of those people. And every single day, it's unfortunate, because they could have such a much more fulfilling life if they went from that victim mentality to, okay, this happened to me, but it's not going to define me.
Man, Rodman, that to me is what I give my life to. That is the process. First, someone's got to be willing to ask hard questions. If they're willing, I can walk anyone through a process to get them freedom, to help them discover their own freedom and put a new path in front of them to get to the greatness that I believe is inside of them. But they've got to be willing to ask and deal with hard questions. That victim mentality. I was a victim. I was victimized, right? Mm-hmm. But it doesn't make me a victim, but I didn't know how to deal with it. So I started living out of that victim mentality, right? And so I needed
100%.
Certain things. I acted in certain ways. I treated people in certain things because that was the only way I could feel valued, important, or had any worth. All false, all negative scenarios I was living, but I was living out that victim mentality, that person you're talking about. And it took someone, a shifting point to challenge me to say, and it was my wife going, I really want a life with her. And if I want a life with her, this is not working. So I had to make a choice at that point, and I didn't know what it was, but I had to make a choice I've got to figure this out. Because if I don't, this thing I love, this thing I value, this thing I desire isn't going to be here. And so it's motivation.
Right.
It's a vision. I had a vision and destination of being married to this woman. So clear vision, clear destination, what I wanted. Motivation was this love and life and happiness and joy. And so the strong motivation. So those were key. And I think those are two keys to anyone's freedom: a clear vision of where they want to go, even if they don't know how to get there, and real hardcore motivation internally and externally, why they should go get that thing, why that's important to them, and what's the cost if I don't, and what's the benefit if I do achieve that thing I'm after. If I can tap into that, the chance of me actually executing, building a plan, finding a way becomes so much greater. Sorry, lots of words there. So
No, don't apologize for a lot of words. We like a lot of words around here.
Well, hold on.
It's one of those things where, I see it so often where people, they have such a hard time breaking out of that victim role.
Yeah.
And some people are just not going to break out of it. I hate to say it. Some just get too much. They feel their empowerment come from it. But the great achievers, the people who are really, really breaking through, doing the things they want to be doing in life, and finding greatness, getting around the right people, all of them understand that they control their output. They're not going to be able to control their inputs. You're just not going to be able to, but I can control how I react to it. And one of my favorite authors was Wayne Dyer.
Yeah.
At an early age, Wayne Dyer's book, Your Erroneous Zones, came into my hands. I think I was 14 years old.
Oh, wow.
Where I learned, because I had some tough childhood traumas that hit me. Somebody put that book into my hand, changed my life. It really, really showed me how important it was to control my outputs.
Yeah, so
and
true.
Show me that I can't control the inputs.
I think it's Angela Earhart. She said, I was listening to her talk about something. I'm not sure if it was her. She's the one that traveled across the ocean on a sailboat or not, but she was talking about all the things that happen in your life as you're making this expedition. And she said, all I knew is I could control the controllables. Everything else I had to let go. Control what you can control. And the truth is, the only thing I can control is this: how I respond, how I act, how I live, what I say. This is what I have control over. And no one can make me do anything that I don't choose to do. I control this. There may be a cost to my choices, but I control it. Because we're all, well, I did this. Rodman, if you'd start saying this, stop saying this and stop doing that, I wouldn't act like a fool. But because you act this way, that gives me the right to act this way. And so when you change, I'll change. Holy crap. But so many people live that way, right? Why do you act this way? Well, you don't know what happened to me when I was a kid. No, I don't. But the choices of how you're living is your choice. Now, some people may be listening to that. The reality isn't going, man, isn't that harsh? I mean, that's me. I mean, gosh, I have been through a lot. Man, it's okay. I would say to anyone listening that has had those stories that you and I have, they're real. The emotions, the feelings, the impact on your life, 100% real. But how long will you allow yourself to be umbilically attached to a trauma and a person and a place that no longer gives a crap about you? They've gone on to live their lives, yet you are umbilically tied, being fed by that past experience, and it's keeping you from your greatness. It's keeping you from what you were created to actually do and achieve, because you haven't cut that umbilical cord, right? And there's a lot of reasons why we don't do that, but there's freedom. You don't have to live from that place any longer, right? But we're not denying the journey and the cost that you paid to get there that's gotten you there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people, the problem is we buy into other people's expectations and stories, and we put those before our own. And why would you be living life like that? I mean, this is your one shot. This has nothing to do with anybody else out there. This is your one shot.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a great dad, you're going to be a great husband, you're going to be a great entrepreneur, you're going to be whatever in life, right? It's not for somebody else to dictate to you. It's not for somebody else to say, this is what you should do. This is who you should be. It's all about you, right? And somehow we put other people's opinions, their ideas about ourselves ahead of our own.
Why do we do that?
And then we ended up,
why do we do that?
It's one of those things when you're talking about trying to break into that, break through to that mindset that puts you first, not selfishly puts you first, Or maybe it is selfishly. I don't
Yeah.
know. You know, sometimes we can aimlessly drift through our life, not really sure how to break the patterns and live the life that you've always dreamed of. I get it. I have been there, so caught up in chasing opportunities until I found myself in a life that felt foreign to me. It took me years to unwind the messy web to get back to what I've been put on this planet to do. And let me tell you this, purpose doesn't have to feel out of arm's reach. And I've designed a plan for you to do a little bit each day over the next 30 days in a challenge that I call the Outlier 30. It's specifically designed to help you find or create more clarity around your purpose. So if you're feeling lost and you want to finally turn things around and live that life that you were destined to create, sign up right now. It's free. You have absolutely nothing to lose and the whole world to gain.
Visit gorodman.com/outlier30 today.
Any way you look at it, how are you going to be great for other people if you can't be great for yourself?
That's so good. Yeah, I believe all transformation and change that we desire is personal before it's corporate. All my coaching, all my leadership development, all my training is first dealing with this. The more I can lead myself and deal with this, the stronger I'll be in the world out there. In anything I do, doesn't matter what my profession is. That's why I coach people in all kinds of professions, because I don't mentor them towards their skill set. I coach them towards their potential, towards the limiting beliefs, and help them work on the foundation of me and having a clear vision. I think part of it is too, is they don't have a clear vision of a future, of a desire, of a destination, of a goal. And without that, we wander. We feel we want something better. We think something's better. We desire something greater, and that's all wonderful, but it's not attached to anything real. And so we just wander going around the mountain instead of going up. And then we build our tent at the scenic overlook, right? It's like, hey, this is the greatest it ever be. There's another scenic overlook just around the corner that's so much greater. And you're never going to see it because you've built camp there thinking this is it.
Yeah. Well, and then you get to the end. Then you get to the end of the trail and you look back and go, wow, you know, my end of my trail wasn't the end. I didn't get where I wanted to go. I didn't try the things I wanted to try. I didn't do the things that I dreamt of doing. And that's where regret comes in. Yeah. And I mean, that's the one biggest thing when you talk to people on their deathbed, when they're at the end of their life, they look back. And the one thing that I never want to experience, and I don't want any of my listeners to experience, I don't want anybody to experience, is regret. I want people to get to that point, look at their kids in the eyes and say, I did everything I wanted to do.
So
if there's something I wanted to try, man, I tried it. I went out there, I gave it a shot. And, you know, I have no regrets. That's the ultimate life lived.
Fear is a true, real, powerful emotion and feeling that propels us into greatness, right? Or keeps us from greatness. It's what we do with that fear and how we handle it. And I would say this to your listeners, and I agree with you 100%. I believe that everyone was created for more, right? Not stuff, not things, not titles, but influence and impact a future and a hope, right? We may not know what that more is, but I believe it's in us. Our problem is we've allowed our past to define our future. We've allowed the experiences to be the lens by which we view our future. And so it becomes scratched and cloudy and it's not clear. And until we can clean our lenses, we can't see fully the future that's in front of us that's possible, right? And so we set the bar low and we live a limited life when I believe we were born and created and called to a limitless life. I'm not talking about just this prosperity kind of thing. I'm talking about purpose and value, legacy, right? The ripple that our lives are meant to have on the people in the world around us. And I would just want your listeners and anyone that's in front of you. Your past doesn't have to chain you back to being less than or settling for anything in your life. The work to get there isn't easy, but you're not alone. You don't have to do this alone. You don't have to think you've got to figure it all out. You surround yourself like people like you, right? Like good people that can say, hey, listen, there is something greater. I don't know what it is, but I know there's more there. And if you're willing to go on a journey, there's people that can help you go on that journey to find that and discover it. And it's never too late. I don't care how old you are. I coach 75-year-olds that are going, man, I want to finish well. That's their statement. 75-year-old man, I want to finish well. How long is that? I don't know. It could be a year to 10 years, but I want to finish well. Well, did you not? No, I think I've had a good life. but I'm not done. I was like, well, come on, let's go.
I love
What
it.
does that look like?
Yeah.
What does that mean for you why are you not thinking you're finishing well? What does it look like to finish well? So he cast a vision. He said, I want to mentor young people. I want to invest and be a father figure for anyone who would listen to my story and my journey. I said, okay, so how do we get you in front of people? How do we make that happen? Right? If that's what it means to finish well for you, then let's clear out the roadblocks and let's go get it.
Well, and it's never, ever too late.
No.
And I don't care if you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s. I don't care where you're at in your journey. It's never too late. And I know things happen. I know we get handcuffed a lot.
Yeah.
We get handcuffed to that mortgage payment. We get handcuffed to that car. We get handcuffed to all these things that we've built in and it's a web. It's this delicate web that sometimes needs a little bit of unweaving.
Yeah.
And like you said, it takes hard work. It takes hard work to do it, but it's never too late. And people who think it is, they're right.
Yeah.
People who don't think it is are also right.
That's right.
Whatever you think it is, if you think it's too late for you, it's going to be too late. If you think it's not, it's not.
Who said that? If you think it is or you think it isn't, you're right. Then someone, was that you? I'm going to give you that credit because that's a profound statement.
No, I am the master at butchering people's quotes.
No,
all
but
right?
I don't know who said it exactly, but you're right. If we think it is or we think we can or we think we can't, we're right. There's power here. There's so much power here. And when I'm not talking about manifestation, I want $1 million, you get it. I'm talking about the belief that there is greatness inside of you and you get to define what greatness is. I'll never be a Rodman. I mean, you have done amazing things. You've gone in amazing places, but I don't care. That's what you've done, and that's been your life. I want my life, greatness for me may look different, but it's about having impact and influence, the freedom to live that life, to empower others. And I would tell people, if there's people out there who are in that place of success, like they're sitting there, they've gotten through it, don't underestimate the power you have to turn around to someone and say to them, you can do this. To invest back into someone who's struggling. If you guys are going, man, I got this. I hear you. This is where I'm at. Man, I would say turn around and find those 2, 3, 4 people in your life that are struggling. Just say, I believe in you.
Yeah.
Because speaking life over someone becomes very powerful because some people have never heard it. They've never heard it.
Never heard it. And there's so many people with such incredible talent and so many incredible things inside them. And this world, the world needs that. The world needs that to come out. The world needs to hear what that person has to teach, what they have to say, how they can empower other people. It's one of those things where it's like we're doing a disservice to society if we're not bringing out our talents. If you're just going through the motions day in and day out, what are you doing? What are you contributing? What are you giving back? How do you feel? How do you feel about it? I mean, it's one of those things that's frustrating because there's some people that I see that have this incredible talents in them, and they're just so gifted and so talented. But it just sits down, it sits inside of them. But people like you come up and show them how it can bubble out of them.
Yeah. That's what I like asking those questions, right? Because I think it's all about provoking them with an alternative. They don't have to buy into it. They don't have to agree it. But I said, what if? So this place, what if this wasn't true? What if something else was actually true? How would that impact your life? How would your life be different if that wasn't true and this was true? I don't know if it is or not. But are you willing to at least ask the question and explore? Because what's the worst? So let's say I challenge you and say, this life you're living and you're settling for, what if it's a lie and you settled because you don't believe you can? Well, what if you really can? What if you can? Okay, so let's explore it. So we go down that road, we try it, right? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? I find out I really can't, and I'm right where I've always been. But what if I find out I'm wrong?
And I learned.
But what if I find out I'm wrong and there is another path? Everything changes. Everything changes.
Yeah.
But we don't risk because we're afraid. And I'm like, I understand fear is powerful. And so we've got to tap into people. What I think is already created and planted in them is that desire and longing for meaning and purpose and value and worth, to be seen and to be noticed. I think those are things that were created in us and planted in us that are legitimate. I think we spend most of our life trying to fill them in illegitimate ways. And so they never quite fill it. I think Pascal talked about a God hole, right? Where he said there's this hole in us that we're spending our whole lives trying to fill, but until we fill it with the source that created it, it's still always going to be empty. I think that's where a lot of us, and then we get tired, we're worn out, we're frustrated, we're beat up, And so we just settle and say, hey, this isn't a bad life.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people living lives that aren't bad lives. There's a lot of that.
100%.
But the meaning of life is getting up and finding that purpose, finding why am I here? What am I good at? What do I love doing? What do I love being? How do I want my days to look? How can I design my life around who I am and what I want to be? That life by design.
This guy's got a podcast, talks about stuff by living your life on purpose and this life by design. I don't know who he is, but man, I heard he's really sharp, really a smart guy, and really has a great message.
I get up every single day and I just always feel, I feel like I'm living a purpose-driven life, and I feel like I'm building this life around what I want to be doing. And man, I just want to see other people doing the same thing. I want to help people break out of those chains that they're feeling. Or you're talking about how their vision is cloudy, right? And yeah, our visions are going to get cloudy when we're getting up every day. We're going to a job we don't want to be doing, or we're not doing things that we really want to be doing with our days. That's what's going to cloud us. We're paying bills, we're paying for cars, we're doing all this stuff instead of really going, God, what do I really want? And
so good. Getting that clarity
is tough sometimes. It's tough to break the chains.
Well, and it's tough because it's what you said. And it's because it's become normal and we think this is it, right? And I think that idea, so I wear glasses, right? I didn't wear glasses my whole life. I started wearing them when I was 40 years old. I went to an eye doctor, 40 years old. He pissed me off, so pardon me. Probably shouldn't say that. But I'm sitting there. You know how the eye doctors are? They put the things and they go click, 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 better like this, click, 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 or better like this, right? And they just start messing. Oh, I don't know, kind of this. It gets done, clicks everything in place, puts the stuff up that says, how's it now? And it was like, oh, I was like, I was blind and I could see. Here's the thing. I didn't know I couldn't see until he put glasses on me and lenses on me that cleared up this fog. I had lived doing can't see very well and just calling it normal until I went to an eye doctor. He adjusted things, cleaned my lenses, put new lenses on me. And all of a sudden I was like, wow, I didn't realize this is what I was accepting as normal. We all need that eye doctor in our lives to start fiddling with stuff, right? And maybe there's something amazing that we're not able to see right now. But we don't even know we're not seeing it because we haven't taken time to clean our lenses and to allow those things of our past to no longer be the thing that we view our future through. They inform us, they refine us, they're part of us, but they end here today. I tell people the future is a blank page. It's a book. You're an author. You're either going to let somebody else write your story or you're going to write it. So pick up the pen and become the author and star. The pages of tomorrow, and it's cliche, but it's so true, are blank. They're going to listen to this podcast, and 2 hours from the time you guys are listening to the podcast. When you get done with the podcast, the next 3 hours of your life have not happened yet. They've not been written. Now, where you're going, circumstances, they may have all been set, but how you show up in the world in the next 3 hours hasn't been determined. So you get to determine how you're going to show up in the next 3 hours. No matter what the situation or circumstance, no one else gets to control that. That's the idea that we can be the author of that. I may not be able to change where I got to go, circumstance, environment, certain things are out of my control, but how I show up, how I respond, how I choose to engage, I get to choose. And you said that already. I get to choose.
Yeah. And that's exciting.
It's not easy. And I won't always choose well. I'm going to mess up. But then I get to choose when I mess up, how do I want to go through messing up? That's the true sense of character. Not that I messed up, but that I know I messed up. I own I messed up, and I keep writing.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. It's like you want to fail. I mean, I get up every day, and I want to succeed, yes, but I also am not afraid to fail. You got to not be afraid of the failure, because failing is just learning.
Yeah,
it's just a benchmark to be able to adapt, to change, to pivot, to get better. And I'm telling you, so many people go through that life, and it's like you said, you get to choose. I get to choose my next 3 hours. That's exciting.
Yeah. If you can reframe your life that way, you become in control. Because what it is we feel out of control. We feel we have no control over our life. I said, time out. let's reframe it. You actually have a lot of control. I know the things that bring the most pain, you don't feel like you have control over, but you get to choose how you let those things impact you. Right. And so don't give away that place. And if you struggle doing it, then let's go through a process. Why are you struggling taking control? Why are you struggling cleaning the glasses? What is it that you believe is on the other side of this thing that is so scary that you're not willing to go there? That's a limiting belief. So let's figure out, because it's not serving you. You can keep it. You can stay right there. Or let's figure out where that came from. And is it true or is it a lie? And then let's identify it. Let's reshape it, reframe it, crush it, replace it. And then let's start walking out that new belief, that new understanding.
Yeah,
I've seen more people's lives and businesses and entrepreneurs and companies that are trying to move through roadblocks, like they just hit walls. Like, why can't we? We keep falling short, right? Why don't we? Same principle that I would take a person through with a limiting belief. There's some beliefs in their culture, some things in the culture of an organization that are keeping them from where they want to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when they can identify those, we can get to it.
So you identify them. I mean, that's got to be number one, right? I mean, that's got to be, if you can't identify the issue or the limiting belief, you're done at square one.
Pretty much.
So I go in, I identify my limiting beliefs, and then the thing about it is replacing. Is that what's next?
So
in the formula?
Yeah. So the process, it's really organic, right? Because you got to walk with someone. To me, that's why I love coaching so much, is because I get to listen and ask them the questions to help them navigate around things they never thought of. And so we identify that there is a limiting belief. Then they have to decide, do you want to keep that? You can. You're welcome to it. And I ask them to make a choice, or do you want to replace it with something else? They need to tell me, I want to replace it, because we're committed to what we confess. Our words are powerful. So when I declare something, my subconscious grabs that declaration and begins to move in that direction. So that's the first thing that's starting to happen, whether they don't realize it or not. So they're going to say, yeah, I would like something else. Okay, well, let's talk about where that limiting belief came from. When do you first remember kind of living that way? So we're not psychoanalyzing. I'm not getting on the couch. I'm not doing counseling. Right? I don't want to go to that place. I just need to go back far enough to say, well, man, I've always felt this way. And, it happened when I was playing Little League. And, man, I just couldn't stay focused. And I was picking dandelions in the outfield. And they told me I was distracted all the time and couldn't focus. It wasn't anything, but I remember that. And okay, so you believe that you were distracted, unable to focus, lack of attention. And so you just believe that's who you were, and that's how it played out in every area of your life. Okay, well, what if that's not true? What if you actually can focus? I believe you can. I believe we all can. We may have to do it differently. Okay, so the limiting belief said, I can't focus. All right, I need you to give me a limitless belief. What would you replace it with? I can focus. I am clear in my thoughts. I achieve and accomplish and finish everything I start. Give me something to take it away. You can't just get rid of something and not replace it. But here's the thing. So I've replaced it. So now there's a whole process I go through with that with them. But we did not arrive to the behaviors and the outcomes overnight. It's a life living a certain way that's gotten me here. So we have to understand, once I replace that limiting belief with a limitless belief, now I need to start getting my behaviors to align with that belief. So that takes work. It takes time. It takes falling and stumbling and getting back up, because we go back here. But because I've acknowledged it and replaced it, I don't have to stay there. And so I give myself grace in the process of working out the new behaviors that align with that belief. And here's the thing I know. If you start declaring something long enough, you don't have to do anything. Your body, your behaviors will start aligning with that declaration, even without you intentionally trying to do it. That's how we're created. That's how we're wired. So if you just start saying, I'm a great reader, I'm a great whatever, I'm really good at this, and you just keep talking to yourself, your subconscious goes, oh, okay, let's try to make that happen for him. Now, it's not magic, right? We don't wake up one day, but we start living in a way, that's what, that we are able then begin to see a different behavior, which will give us a different outcome. Does that make sense? I mean, it's a process. It's a relational process. It's hard for someone to just take themselves through this because they don't know the questions to ask and they don't even realize they have it. But once they learn it, here's the thing. Once they learn this, Rodman, and I walk them through this process, they can do it on their own. because now they know the questions to ask themselves to look at areas. They can take this roadmap process, this framework, and they can work it out in anything, business, personal, professional, family, any area where you feel stuck and you just can't break through. There's a process you could then walk yourself through the transformation of that situation.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And even on the whole thought process of putting it into the, saying that I can't, replacing those negative things with those positive things of I can, I will. I always tell people, I will things into existence. It's just like, and how do I will into existence? Well, I tell myself I can. Well, I tell myself that, yeah, I'm going to be fantastic on stage. Yes, I tell myself when we do this podcast, it's going to be the best. I take this, the self-talk and replace all that garbage that we put into our heads and give myself every reason why we're going to do exceptionally well.
Yeah, and you can help people experience that by just asking them. I want you to just think through, and people could do this. I want you to think through some brokenness in your life, some hard places, some places you felt defeated that you tried and you failed. And you get people to think about that, and then you watch their whole body just kind of go, and you say, how's your body feel right now? What's going on in your physical body? What's going on in your mind? Man, I feel heavy. I feel tight. God, I feel, I'm just tired thinking about it. Great. Why did your body shift? We were talking just fine. I asked you to think about a few things, and what happened? You went to this because you thought about something, you engaged a thought around something that had energy to it that your body responded to. So if it works that way, can it work the other way? It has to be able to work both ways.
Of course it can.
It's a lie. I mean, sure. So why not try it the other way?
Yeah.
Right? And so they start experiencing going, oh, well, crap, I never really thought. They all know it. It's not like they haven't experienced in their life. They've never been able to identify that they have control. Like they have the ability to choose to move in that direction. Now, listen, I'm not underestimating the power of trauma and things in our lives that need extra help. There are places that need counseling and need therapy and need the assistance of different levels of professionals. I don't want to mitigate this and go, hey, all your stuff, whatever you're dealing with, just think it's positive and say you can and you will. Yes, I do believe that's true, but I also believe that there's more to it as we uncover things. And I've coached a lot of people where I've gotten to a place and said, you know what? We're at a place that we need to do a little bit deeper work. Because this trauma that you've experienced, that you're going through is real, and it has attached itself in some very harmful ways in your life, your body, and your behaviors. And this is going to need a little more work than just this process. And I'm trained and I can do that. But typically it's a referral to say, hey, let's get you with some people that can help you break through this one place, and let's get that dealt with, and then we can keep building on top of that. So I don't want people to think this is magic formula. So sorry, go ahead. Go, Rodman.
No. And you're right. There are no magic formulas, right? I mean, it's all about growing and evolving and learning. And I mean, it doesn't matter where you're at in life. It's always, nobody has a magic formula. Nobody's got it.
There's not
all
one
we're doing is getting up every
does
single
not
day.
fit all.
Nope.
And that's why coaching for me
will.
is so personal. That's why I love coaching. It's hard because I can only do so many people at a time, but I love that because it's organic. It's me sitting with you and asking questions and learning about you and then tapping in. Because here's the other thing I'll tell you, and I know you want to ask another question. I would encourage people, just do this. Start listening to your self-talk. If you don't know, I don't know what my limiting beliefs are. They will betray themselves to you if you start listening. Well, I can't do that. Well, I've never really done that before. I've tried that, but it's never worked out that way. Start listening, or but. If you use the word but a lot, usually but is an indicator of a limiting belief. Yeah, I can do that, but But is a negation of everything you said before. So it typically highlights something that you truly don't believe. I hear you, but let me tell you something else, because that isn't reality. And so notice where you say but, and look at what you said but to, right? Because you're negating it. You're throwing it away with something else. Those are just simple things you can begin to do to go, oh, wow, yeah, I do have a limiting belief around here.
So don't be a but.
Ahead. Yeah, don't. I tell people, leave the buts behind.
So here's what I want to know. I mean, we're running out of a little bit of time here, but I know we got a book coming out. I want to hear a little bit about your book.
Okay.
Because I know it's coming up. I haven't even got a copy yet. I can't wait to get my copy of the book because I'm sure it's going to be just loaded with great stuff. Tell us a little bit about the book and what you want readers to get out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So The book is an act of obedience for me, right? I initially started and I just knew I needed to write it. I'm sitting at 60 years old. It's not old, but I want the next 15 years of my life to really matter, and I want to focus. I've done a lot of things, but as I funnel here, I was like, man, I want to really hone in on those things that I am most gifted at, that I'm most able to engage and to leave a legacy and an imprint in people's lives. So then I started thinking through my story and my life and how I've gone through things and what I've learned and how I coach. And it all came out. I said, I'm going to write this down. So the book is called Born Limitless. It's this idea that I believe in our createdness. I'm a person of faith, and you don't have to be, this isn't a faith book, but it comes from this place that I believe in all of us is this limitless potential in our createdness, right? I don't believe there's accidents. I don't believe, both of my children are adopted. They were conceived in rape. They're not accidents. Yes. That's not how they should have been conceived. That's not okay. It's a lot of junk with that, but there's not an accident there. There's a design in that child and that person. And so I believe that we were born limitless, and then life happens and we start settling for less because of the experiences of life. And so the whole book is about my journey and story of where life happened and what I went through, and looking back, what I needed to deal, the limiting beliefs that came from it, and then how that manifested in behaviors that caused really hard outcomes in my life, right? They were ultimately because of a belief I held that caused me to live a life in a certain manner. And I got to a point, I've already mentioned this with my wife, and that I've really, this is the person I wanted to be with, and I knew there were some problems. So the book is about crushing limiting beliefs and replacing them. It's really about cultivating an infinite mindset, the possibility, and then unleashing your true potential. I have a framework that I talked about that's in there, and I unpack the framework that people can walk through to actually build their best future, to process, identify, and do this. And so that's really what the book is about. It's about first, I don't know if it's, it's one of those things that's very transparent. You put it out there, you're like, holy crud. I don't know if this is any good or not. I think it's good. It's got great info, but I'm like, oh. So anyways, I'm excited for it. I think there's a couple more in me, but that's the book. It came from my life. There's story, real practical value that I think you can take away. I think everybody can relate to it in some fashion, some way or another. And then I give some good frameworks in there of how you can actually walk through identifying, crushing, replacing, and then building a new behavior to a new outcome. So I tell you, when it comes out, you need to put it in my hands. I'm going to have you sign it. You and I run into some similar circles. So I know I'm going to be able to get your pen into your hand and sign that book for me. I'm excited about it. May 7th is the date, right? And now they do that pre-launch stuff. So at middle of March, everything goes live that I can do the pre-sales and all that. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. And then May 7th, it actually hits the print. I mean, it's published and out there. So people can pre-order between now and then. So, I don't know. I love it. I'm glad I did it. It's helping me focus. It helped me clarify stories. And, really, it's been good for me cathartic for me to write it. So
books change lives. I mean, I always think about if I did not get that Wayne Dyer book in my hand at 14, who would I be? Where would I be? Yeah. Maybe there's another book that comes and inspires me.
That was for you.
You got a book in you, and I tell this to people all the time. It changes lives. Write your experiences, write your knowledge, give people those gifts. And so I'm really happy that you're putting that into the world.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I'm excited about it. So it's been fun. It's been a good labor. So, yeah.
Rick, where do people need to go to find you at?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the easiest way, here's what I would ask anyone who's interested in what I'm doing and what's happening. I think the easiest way is go to my Instagram. So if you'll put in the show notes, it's just Rick Torrinson. Go to Instagram, and I would encourage you to do this. In Instagram is where you're going to see everything that's going on. I can connect with you. I have a private Facebook community as well, but the easiest way to connect is Instagram. From that place, if you'll direct message me on Instagram, message me, and just tell me, like I asked you, Rob, but tell me what is a limiting belief you've wrestled with or you're wrestling with. Just give me one limiting belief. I will send you, if you give me your email in there and you just connect with me and DM me, I'll send you my framework that you can begin to work with to help you deal with that limiting belief. But it'll also connect you to my community. I really just want to build a community of people that are seeking to really break through and to walk in that potential, to walk in the createdness that they had. I said, I believe people are created for more influence, impact, more ripple, and I want to help them discover that. And so this is the best way I know to do it. Instagram.
Fantastic. And I got one more question for you before we get out of here today. I ask this at the end of every single podcast, and that's if you could go back in time and give your younger self your most valuable piece of advice. What would that be?
Yeah, it's a great question. I have this 5-day thing that I do called The Power of a Blank Page. It was that author thing. And the last question I asked them is, place yourself, wherever you are, write a letter to yourself back when you were 20 or whatever. And what would you tell that person about where you are today? And what would you want them to know so they can get there? So I love that. I love that question. What I would tell myself looking back on it is, do it afraid. Do it afraid. It's okay. The fear that kept me bound because of all these things that then created these beliefs and stuff, it's okay. Risk. Do it afraid. Step across that line. You're going to be okay. Right? If I would have done that sooner, if I would have processed that sooner in my life, I think about all, the time. It's not wasted. Nothing's wasted, but the time that I could have spent living more whole and more complete. And so I would tell myself, don't be afraid. Do it afraid, right? Take the risk, and it's going to be okay. If you just take that step, it's going to be okay. It's not as scary as you think it is. What about you? What would you tell yourself? I want to know what you would say. I know we don't have time, but man, come on.
Man.
That's a great question.
Nobody's asked me that question.
I want to know.
I haven't even thought about my answer. I've got so much.
What would you say? Your 25-year-old self is confronting you, and he's going, man, what do I need to know?
I would go back and I would tell myself, as an entrepreneur, to don't lead your journeys based on profits. Lead your journeys based on purpose.
Come on.
And, there's just so many businesses that I've had in my life that, I used to lead with profits. And we did well. We made a lot of money and did a lot of good things. But, there's just not the same satisfaction in that journey. There's not the same, it's work. But when you're leading with purpose, man, it feels good.
So
and I wish
good.
I would have discovered that at a younger age.
I love it. That's a blessing to me, man. I'll receive it. It's never too late, man. I'm leading with purpose, man. I'm living with purpose. Thank you, Rodman. Rick, I appreciate it. I really enjoyed it.
My friend.
Yeah,
I appreciate you. Thanks for coming on the show. Love being on this journey with you, and I can't wait to get you back on after your book launches, and we'll have a whole nother conversation.
I appreciate it. I look forward to staying connected with you and all of your. I'm going to start following and letting people know, and all of your followers and listeners, just want them to know, hey, you were created for more. So go get it. God bless you, man. Thank you.